This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Podcast, giving respect and voice to people with special needs. I'm your host, Daniel Smrokowski, athlete leader with Special Olympics Illinois and former Southern Tribal Global Messenger with Special Olympics. On today's episode, we're joined by my good friend and fellow athlete leader, Matthew Gorski, to talk all about his incredible journey running the 2025 Chicago Marathon. We'll take you behind the scenes of what it's like to train for 26.2 miles, the motivation that kept him going, and what it meant to represent Special Olympics on one of the world's biggest marathon stages. Whether you're a runner, a Special Olympics fan, or just love a good story of determination and inclusion, this episode will inspire you. So let's get right into it. Here's my conversation with Matthew Gorski. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Matthew on finally on Special Chronicles. Welcome, Matthew. It's good to have you on the program, Matthew.
Thank you.
And I feel like it's been a while we were at an athlete leadership training a year or so ago, and we talked about having you on, and we exchanged phone numbers, and then finally we were at an event last week that we thought, well, why not? Because you just ran the Chicago Marathon. We thought, well, why not having you on the program?
Yeah, it's a really pleasure to be here. So thank you.
And you, not only are you now a guest, but you've been watching and listening to this podcast. So for those of you listening right now, you can do like Matthew and follow the Special Chronicles podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So don't forget to hit that follow and subscribe button. So a quick introduction for you, Matthew, because some of our listeners, at least within the Special Olympics community, probably know you. But can you tell us who you are, your role as a Special Olympics athlete leader, and tell us a little bit more about your background and how you first became involved with the Special Olympics?
So my journey in Special Olympics started when I was a freshman in high school. I went to Ronald Amundsen High School in 2016. I started there as a freshman. I had really good teachers there. One of them was my math teacher at the time. He had said that, hey, he got an opportunity to bring me and a couple of my friends at the time together to go on a trip to get to know each other, like outside of school and outside of the classroom at the time. And he said that would be a good way to get to know each other on a more personal level, other than just being in class together. So that's where we started off, and I don't really know what Special Olympics was. It was more of like, it was a really nice introduction. I never really heard of it before. So me and a couple of friends, I think it was like 4 people. It was my friends that I still know today are Henry Madison, Noel Davila, and then Henry Danaher. I still talk to them today. We the first sport that we did was downhill skiing. we went to a ski resort called Chestnut Mountain Ski Mountain in Galena, Illinois. We started off there skiing together, and we stayed in a hotel room together. That was the first time for some of my friends at the time staying in a hotel, so they learned a little bit of how that works. And it was that first time staying with friends from high school, and I never did that before by myself. I've stayed in hotels with my family before, but never with friends from high school. So it was really cool, and by myself too. So that was pretty nice. And that was the first sport that we did, and then it grew into various other sports that I still compete in today, like snowshoeing, basketball, bocce, flag football, bowling. That's what I led to after that one trip. So it's been pretty amazing so far.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome how starting competing in one sport then leads to another. Same thing when I got started in Special Olympics in high school. I got started with one sport, swimming, and then friends encouraged me to then get involved in the basketball, and now today bocce ball. But what was the first sport you said that you got involved in?
Downhill skiing was my first
Awesome.
sport.
Awesome. And so then with track and field or running, was that later on? Was that after school? Like after you graduated school, or when was that?
That was during high school. So after I was introduced to Special Olympics, I joined the high school cross country and track and field team as a way to get involved on campus, to make new friends, and to get involved in high school, to make my high school journey more, not just go to class and go home, do something memorable. And I was really the first real team I was on. Growing up, I always play a lot of sports growing up. Before high school, I was on the cross country team when I was in elementary school as well, but it wasn't as big of a deal as it was when I started in high school. And I learned a lot more about what it's like to be on a team, how important it is to have support all around for your coaches, your teammates, and yourself. It was pretty fun. I remember my first cross country practices were running around the school with my coach at the time. The team was the cross country team was it got big pretty quickly. We had meets during the weekends. It was a lot of fun. And then after cross country, I wanted to join I started track and field, and then I did a lot of running events there. And we were doing shot put for a while before they shut down the program there at the time, because there wasn't a whole lot of participation. So they just went towards, okay, we're just going to do a lot of running events. So I did that, and then it was really fun. We were a good team. I was on a good team in high school.
Awesome. And how many years have you said that you've been involved with this movement, with Special Olympics?
Right now it's 10 years and counting, which means
Awesome.
I don't want to stop.
Yeah. I was thinking back to like when I got started, and I think it's been about 20 years now. So
Wow.
awesome. What does, in addition, like beyond sports, like we always talk about how sports is the beginning part of this movement, but then we go beyond sports. So athlete leadership is another big part of this movement, as you know. I mean, that's how we got connected, and so many of us athlete leaders get connected through athlete leadership. So what does being an athlete leader mean to you?
To me, it means being a role model for yourself and to a lot of people who may struggle with finding their voice, finding their own courage to stand up to other people and to share their story. Because I remember before I started my athlete leadership journey, I wasn't as confident as I am now. I was pretty scared to go out and give speeches and practice public speaking. And I'll learn that over time as an athlete leader, the more practice you go out and do, the more confident you'll be with yourself and with your skills as what you can do as an athlete leader. And I really like it. I like showing people what you can do as a person with a disability, because it's not really a disability. It just, there's no limits to a disability at all. it feels good.
Absolutely. And before we dive into the Chicago Marathon, I guess to lead into the next segment, the main point of that we're having you on is to talk about the running part of, in addition to all the sports but we're going to dive a little bit more deeper into just that one sport of running. So how has running become a part of your athletic journey?
So when it started in high school, I'm starting off in high school because that's kind of where it all started. My interest in running came from just the desire to stay in shape, and just the love of how it feels, and the like that internal drive that I have to just succeed and to be, just consistent with everything. I like to have a really good state of mind with things in life, not just with being an athlete leader, but also with my body too. I like to be consistent with that. So with running, it feels good because I get to learn to just take your time and relax. And then it drives me to be the same way when I'm not running, when I'm off the field, as so to speak. It helps me kind of learn to take your time and, listen and learn, not just from yourself, but from other people too. And it's a good lesson. You can't be so down on yourself all the time. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to laugh at yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure that will be really motivating for a lot of other a lot of other athletes too, whether they're a Special Olympics athlete or just a runner or another athlete. When did you first discover your love for running? Because you said you got started with alpine skiing, I believe, and then you've done some other sports. So when was that when you first discovered your love for running?
So it was after my first country meet. I like the feeling of just like running on your own and just being in the zone, so to speak, just being by yourself and not having to worry about anyone like telling you where to go. You can just go by yourself. And after high school, when I started doing like 5Ks and 10Ks, that's when it really like kicked off. That's when I was like, yeah, I love this. I really like how it feels. And that's why I started doing it more often. And it became sort of my personality. Running is something that I really, really enjoy, and makes me feel good. So that's where I really like kicked off. My first 5K was the Shamrock Shuffle. I remember doing the Shamrock Shuffle, and for the first time, I think it was 2 years ago, that's when it really like went even higher towards leading up to the marathon. That's when I realized that, hey, I can go further with my athletic journey. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going for it. I love it.
Awesome. And as we dive into the Chicago Marathon experience. And for those of you listening, you're listening to, well, this is a podcast, so you guys all probably clicked on this podcast wherever you're listening, whether it's specialchronicles.com or wherever you get your podcast. So you probably already know what program you're listening to. But in case this episode it was on radio, you're listening to the Special Chronicles podcast. The guest is Matthew Gorski, a Special Olympics athlete, Lido. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, if you scan the QR code that is above Matthew's face there, right above, yes, right where he's pointing, you can. That's how you can get links to listen and follow and watch and donate and all that. So as we dive into the Chicago Marathon experience, how did you decide? Because you said that you got started with a 5K to begin with. So how did you decide to run the Chicago Marathon at 26.2 miles? How did you? Because yes, there was a lot of people that run it, but then there's also probably a lot more people that don't run it. So how did you decide to run the Chicago Marathon?
So I started off as it was as a recommendation from my family. They said that if you can, like, if you're able to run a 5K and a 10K so well, then why not go a step ahead and go for more longer distances? So before the marathon, I tried my first half marathon. The half marathon was really cool. I love the whole running community. They're very, very supportive of you. They're very caring. They understand like what you need. And when it comes to a disability, there's like, I feel like I'm a regular person in the running world. This disability doesn't really exist there because there's so much love and support there, and people kind of, they understand what runners need, and it's a whole community, and it feels good. So what was leading up to the marathon, I wanted to try something new. That was a goal that I had for myself. People were telling me before the marathon and in high school that, hey, you should run one, just so, because I've always been someone that has so much energy and so much, like, always like a little mouse, always trying to run around and not just have energy nonstop. So I said, you know what, I'll go out and try it. And it turned out to be an experience that I really, really love doing. I really like going that far and just going the distance, pun intended. And so I was like, the runners in the running world, I like to call it getting hooked on those kind of runs. So my aunt also inspired me too. My aunt is also a runner. My aunt Nikki, she's been running marathons since I was in like elementary school. I think before that too. So she was a really good inspiration for me to continue my running journey and to run marathons, just because she understands like what it takes to run, like mentally and physically, because it takes a toll on your body. There's a lot of pounding on your legs and feet, and you have to be able to push yourself to go through those barriers of being able to run that far. And then what really just drives me is the support from people. Along the race route, you have a lot of people cheering you on, and there's a lot of like really good music to get you going. And so it really gets me pumped up. And awesome. The adrenaline just kicks in and you're just going. It's a feeling I really crave. So that's why I want to do it again. Because
awesome.
Yeah, I want to do my third one. It was really fun.
Awesome. And what does the marathon mean to you personally, but then also as an athlete, Lido? Because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of other special Olympic athletes that are listening in or tuning in to this episode. So what does the marathon mean to both you personally, as a runner, as an athlete, but then also as an athlete leader?
So running is very special to me as an athlete leader and as an athlete as a whole, because it feels like I'm in my own league. And in a way, I get to inspire people to to challenge themselves to do something little out of the ordinary, and then to show people that inclusion has no limits. There's no limit to how we can include people, to kind of just show your voice in the world that we live in. It's not always as nice as we think it is, to put it in a more nicer way, but it's important to me because there's a lot of ways to use your voice without using your voice, so running marathons is a way to do that. You're showing people that being an athlete is important, but being a leader is more important, because people with the disabilities don't really get a chance to do stuff like I do. I get to do, and it's a privilege. It's nice that I get to do. I'm able to do some of the stuff. So it feels good to be
Awesome.
really able to do it.
Awesome. Probably should have got to this at the beginning of the segment, but this is well. Okay. I'm not going to let our listeners in on how we prepared for the podcast today, but with that, forgot to, and we usually start these conversations, and I forgot to start it, but we'll get back to the Chicago Marathon. But can you briefly share with us what disability you were diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed with high functioning autism when I was younger, and then a little bit of a backstory of so growing up, I couldn't talk. I had a hard time talking. I used sign language. High functioning autism was what I was diagnosed with. And then, that's really about it.
Okay. Awesome. And as we know, both within Special Olympics and here on Special Chronicles on this program, our disability is not the focus, but it's on our accomplishments, and that's why we're focusing on this episode on the Chicago Marathon. So coming back to the Chicago Marathon, you share with all listeners a few memorable moments from the race day. Well, in the next segment, we'll come back to the training. In the next segment, we will flash back to your preparation and to the training journey. But before we get to that flashback, in the present, can you share with our listeners a few memorable moments from the race day?
Yeah,
miles.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good memorable moments that I will always remember. One of the moments that I will remember was hanging out with my family before the race. Just taking a lot of photos with my family and whatnot. And then walking to the starting line, and while I was standing at the race line, you're divided up in corrals based on your pace. If you have a faster pace, you're more in front of, let's say you're in corral A, you're supposed to be in front because you're supposed to be faster. I was in corral E, so I was kind of in front but towards the middle. And so that's where I was. And there's a lot of people this year, and it felt really, really good. It felt like I was a horse in the stall before the gate slammed open and you just took off. Felt like that. I was kind of pacing myself and getting all hyped up, and And then I remember there's a national anthem that played, so that really it made me emotional. You know, it made me think about all the people that helped me get to there, and all those country coaches that helped me get there and trained me, and it felt good. Yeah. So.
Talk now a little bit about the community and the fan support during the marathon. I believe I remember the event that we were at last week. Michelle, who's our director of athlete leadership, was talking about how I think your mom and your family was on one side of the street, and then she and some of the other Special Olympics Illinois staff was on the other side of the street, and how they saw you before your family saw you when you were running by. So talk about that community and fan support during the marathon. Throughout all the 26.2 miles, there was fans and people from the community throughout the entire run. So talk about that, just how important that community and fan support was throughout the marathon, throughout the 26.2 miles.
So there's a lot of people there at the race. A lot more than usual. When I ran it last year, it wasn't as there wasn't as many people cheering you on as it was this year. It was pretty packed, and it felt good. Because when you're running that far, you kind of need that emotional support. Because there's people that want you to succeed and want you to finish what you've been training for months, and it feels good when you have that support around you, because some people need that, especially if it's your first race. And it's really cool because some people would give you like gels, like running gels to eat during the race to give you energy, and some would give you like water or Gatorade. And those are always really nice. And then there's a lot of cheering section. So my mom had made like a really, really cool sign. She would show that and cheer me on, and that would really help. That really, really help.
Awesome.
I was trying to not walk.
Yeah. So I'm sure, you're trying to run for all of it. You talked about a little bit in the last segment about going from the 5K to then setting a goal to run the Chicago Marathon. So come back to that a little bit and talk about why you chose the Chicago Marathon as your goal.
So I chose the Chicago Marathon as my goal because it was always like a personal achievement to get towards, and to be able to run that far, because I've always have a lot of energy. I had a lot of energy after the 5K and the 10K, and always wanted to do more. And just in general, I'm always looking for ways to like improve in my athleticism and in athlete journey. I'm always trying to push myself, and running a marathon was a way to do it. And it feels good because I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm a horse. I just like to go and just keep going and just run nonstop, because that's so much energy I have most of the time. And when you have a goal like that, it feels good to set it. You know, it keeps you going when you need it the most, even when it comes to outside of running too. And I like that feeling.
Awesome. What coming back to the Chicago Marathon, share with us what was going on through your mind at the starting line. Like, wait, you said that the national anthem just played, and then you said that it felt like a bunch of horses about to race. And what was going on through your mind at the starting line, right before that 26.2 miles, right at that starting line? What was going on? Kind of give our listeners some insight into that.
So what was going through my mind was I was thinking about like my family, just how much they mean to me, and just how supportive they've been to me over the years. Um, they're always looking out for me and making sure that I'm staying like on track towards my goals, pun intended. My family, it was just the only thing I was thinking about. That really made me want to keep doing it. The support, when the support is there, it pushes you to go further, to go the distance, not just the distance on the race wise, but like mentally too. And it's a good feeling to have.
Awesome. And you talked about just a little bit ago about some memorable moments. So bringing, jumping back to some of those memorable moments during the marathon, was there a moment during the race that stood out the most to you? I mean, was it the sign that your mom was holding, or was there a moment during the race that stood out the most for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that were cheering me on, and then I remember I was crying at one point during the race because I was in a lot of pain in the legs. And then there's a runner that I was running by that was like put my arm around my shoulder and said, "Hey, just let it out. You can do this. You can finish." And that really helped a lot. Because running that distance, sometimes you kind of need that, especially after mile 20. I believe that's where it was this year when I was going through that one little wall. And then that just the adrenaline just kicked in, and I ended up finishing after that. So it's you need that when you're running that far, just so you can be able to push and just push through it. And when you hit the wall in the rowing world, it's usually when you decide, when your body decides to just stop and not running and going slow, like the turtle and like the tortoise in the hare. The tortoise is very important in a race like that, so you can be able to get across the finish line.
Awesome. And speaking of you said that most that moment that stood out the most for you was around the 20 miles. So as we finish that last 6 miles to the finish line, how did it feel to finally cross the finish line? Can you bring our listeners into that moment of crossing the finish line and share with us your reaction to finally reaching that 26.2 miles at that finish line?
We're relieved and happy, and I'm hungry. Those are the three things I was feeling at the moment when I crossed. Relieved because it was over. Happy because I just finished and ran my second marathon. And then hungry because running that distance can really spike up your appetite, even if you're eating snacks and Gatorade and running gels, which helps with energy along the race. They can also spike up your appetite quite a bit. So I remember there is at the race, they were giving out not just medals for finishing, but they're giving out like bananas and donuts for sugar, because running that distance, your sugar levels are down. So they give you donuts to keep your sugar up, and then bananas for like potassium and whatnot, and then protein shakes, and also apples. So I ate all of that, and I was still pretty hungry, but I was very, very proud of myself. Because sometimes it feels, not sometimes, but it just feels like you're in your own league. You're in your own lane, and it's a good feeling to be in, because I like to be an inspiration for people, and that's what I felt like after the race. I was like, I just did it. It's a good feeling.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that, especially how you said those three, which I think this might be one of the clips that we'll share when this episode airs. That how you shared those three words of that when you crossed the finish line, you felt relieved, happy, and hungry. Awesome. So for those listening, or I should say, if you're watching the video podcast on our YouTube, if you scan that QR code that's right above Matthew there on the right hand side, right where he's pointing, and that's where you can get links to follow Special Chronicles on social media, specialchronicles.com. With that, is there a favorite marathon moment that you have? You mentioned a few of those moments, the past half hour. But what is there a favorite moment that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I really like seeing the Special Olympics Illinois staff. That was really, really cool. I remember sharing them my journey of how I ran and what I trained for the race, and then seeing them there felt really good. And it felt like I was very like a celebrity almost. So, but aside from popularity, it felt good to see them there, support wise, and it was that really just like it just kicked in from there. I ran a little faster when I saw them, so it felt good.
Awesome. And share with us some behind the scenes moments of race morning as well as the post-race celebration. So from some behind the scenes of what were you doing when you woke up right before you went down to downtown Chicago for the Chicago Marathon. Share with us what were you doing the morning of the race, and then right after that post-race celebration as well.
So before the race, I had to get up pretty early in the morning. I remember getting up at like 4:30, I think, because the race actually started around 7:30, and they started pretty early in the morning. So I got up, and then I had a protein shake because before you run the full 26.2 miles, you need to have energy in that tank as fuel, because your body is a car, so you need to get loaded up. So I fueled up. I went to the bathroom, so I didn't have to do that during the race. And I drank a lot of water, and then had a banana, and then went and did a little, warmed up, stretched, and then did a little pre-run, just jogged a little bit, just so I could get my body warmed up and whatnot. Because it was a little chilly. It wasn't too bad, but it was a little chilly. So I did that so I can get ready. So it goes back to the horse in the race gate. You get the horse legs. I call them horse legs because that's what it feels like running that far. It feels like you're a horse. You just get your body warm so it's ready to go that far.
Awesome. And as we now move into that kind of flashback to the training journey and the preparation, how did you before we get into that, a week ago when we were talking, you had said that you were eating a bunch of spaghetti to help with that preparation, to help with that training. And just this past week, my other job at United Airlines, a pilot friend was about to fly from Chicago to New York City, and he texted me just to have me meet him in the cockpit. And so I was talking to him and the first officer, and I guess the first officer that this captain was flying with has said that he also likes to win, and he said that he eats a lot of pasta before he wins, and that's also what you were saying too. And I think I heard that from some other runners too, which I didn't know before that. I guess a lot of runners eat a lot of pasta right before you. So using that as a jumping off point, can you both answer my question, and maybe some of our listeners have the same question on why pasta? Because usually outside of running, it's probably not a good idea to eat a lot of pasta. But unless you live in Italy, but unless you live in Italy or you run a lot of races. So can you bring us into and use that as a jumping off point of you eating a lot of spaghetti and how you prepared for running 26.2 miles, how you trained in the weeks and months leading up to the marathon?
So I'll start off with the how important it is to. It's called carb loading when you're eating pasta and a lot of carbs throughout the week leading up to the race, because your body is, well, like I said, it's like a car. So you're trying to store a lot of energy, which is what your body's going to use. Your body's going to use that as energy to fuel you for your run, which you're gonna need quite a lot of for the full race, and that's good, and it's pretty common throughout the running community. So it fuels you up, because your body is gonna need to use all that, and it's gonna be able to store it for like later on. So because your body like burns it off as fuel, there's an analogy called the little engine that could. It's like the wood and coal. The coal is the pasta, and then the wood is like water or fat. And once you have that stored in, it's supposed to fuel you for the race. And so it's pretty important. It's also important for my training plan that I had leading up to the race. Especially for long runs, like during the weekends, I would run like 13 or 14 or 18 miles in one day. And then the night before, I would usually have pasta, so it would fuel me up for that run. So I can be able to use that for that distance. Because if you don't have it, you're just gonna go hungry during the run. It's not gonna work with your stomach. So it serves as like fuel for your run. And for me, it was like week 13 or week 14, I started doing that, because that was kind of like the peak of the training, because there's a full 16-week plan that I would follow. And it brought up carb loading and just how important it is to have it the night before the race, because like I said, it's like you're fuel in the car. You have to fill up your gas tank, and if you don't have a full gas tank, then you're not going to perform well. So you'll be ready you'll be more ready for the race when your stomach is full the night before for that distance.
Awesome. Bringing it into, in addition to carb loading, as you said, the week leading up to the race, talk about some of the key workouts, routines, and support systems that you used. What did a typical training week look like for you? Because I'm sure that there was not just one training week. It wasn't just that because that carb loading week, it sounds like, was the week leading up the week right before, or the week right before the marathon leading up to that. And so I'm sure you had a whole bunch of training weeks. So what did a typical training week look like for you with key workouts, routines, and support systems?
So a typical like workout week, the training for a marathon, I would run at the beginning of the week, like the first couple of weeks of my training plan, I would run like 3 or 4 or even 8 miles during the week. And I would do it in the morning. I would stretch first. Stretching is just as important as running. So you can get your muscles a little bit more like ready and awake. So you don't like injure yourself. So because it's you have to be able to, your muscles gonna be able to have to support your body throughout the run. And then I would run in the morning. I would drink a lot of water, and then I'll go home and eat. And the support system that I had was like I had a support runner that I would text, just like give him that he would give me some advice. And then I had a running group called the Trailblazers. It's a running club out of Chicago. They live in the Chicagoland area. I forgot specifically where, but they run around the lake. That's where they do most of their training runs. So I would train with them, and when I could during the weekend. The weekends we would go on like long runs. We would do it in the morning, and so that's typically what a full training week would look like for the marathon.
Awesome. Is it building upon that typical training week? Share with us your best training tip of the week for if any of our listeners might want to train to run a marathon or half marathon or 5K, or if they want to be inspired and empowered by hearing your journey, your marathon journey today. Is there a training? Share with us just one training tip of the week.
So my training tip of the week is to stretch before you run, but not just stretch. Also, if you're running a long distance, go on the treadmill is my best advice. It helps you control your pace. Because with running, pacing is very important. If you go too fast, you're gonna lose all your energy. If you go like not too slow, going slow is good too, but the longer you stay at one pace, the more energy you have at the end to push through and finish. So that's my training tip of the week. And then also drink a lot of water. The more water you drink, the more energized you'll be. Even
like
when you're not. Yeah, exactly.
That's 40 hours. Yeah.
You're gonna need a lot of water during the week, especially when you're training, because your body uses that as fuel besides the carbs and pasta. And it just as important as running and stretching and then mental toughness and whatnot. So drink a lot of water, be consistent, because I would run like 4 days a week. So, and don't give up, just have fun.
Awesome. And share with us now some of the, because I'm sure there's a lot of mental and physical challenges that happen throughout the training. Like you might mentally one day you might feel like you're able to run the marathon, and physically you might feel like you're able to, but then the next day, both mentally and physically, you might feel like you might not be able to. So share with us just some of the mental and physical challenges that you have faced along the way of this training for the Chicago Marathon.
So I went a little through like confidence issues, just thinking like, am I able to do it again? Like, why am I doing this? Is it for out of like being an athlete? Is it just trying to beat my time? And what really kept me going was the inspiration from others, from my aunt. Every time I think of marathons, I think of my aunt. My aunt was always like, my aunt was really helpful, just giving me tips on like what to do throughout the week to like mental wise. And then another thing that I would do is positive self-talk. Just say like good things about yourself. Just say like, what you're good at, and then say what I'm going to work on, like pacing wise, or like running a more slower pace at first. Just take your time, just stuff like that. But positive self-talk would help me on more tougher training days, especially when I needed it from my family and from my aunt and just family in general. And I would keep those days in mind, because as an athlete, you're not always gonna have, a good day on the field. It's okay to lose, but when you're running marathons, when you're not training as good as you should, that's when it feels like you're losing. But when you're having positive self-talk, that's when it really just kicks in for me, and that's when I just be able to push through it and just finish.
Awesome. Doing those, building upon some of those tough training days that you talked about, share with us what kept you motivated during those tough training days. Was it family, other athletes?
It was family. It was my family that would keep me more motivated, and I would think about like funny things, like funny thoughts that make myself laugh, so I can just be positive. Being positive is the best way to keep yourself going on tough training days, and when you don't want to some days, it's good to keep that in mind, so you can get through those don't want to do it days, so you can end up wanting to do it more and wanting to get through that barrier in a way.
Awesome. Well, love that. And in the last segment, you mentioned having the support of your family and the Special Olympic staff and during the race. As we wrap up this segment about training, who supported or trained with you on this journey? Support from coaches, family, Special Olympics, or the community. You mentioned in the Chicago area, in the community, wanting group, so that kind of fits into the community. But who supported or trained with you on this journey?
So I know that it's not really related to Special Olympics Illinois. He's with Special Children's Charities, but his name is Yoko. He was my support runner through my both marathons I ran last year and this year. He ran with me during the race, and he also trained with me like during the not weeks leading up to the race, but like at the beginning of my training plan, we would go to the lake together and run. It was really helpful because he would like pace me, which means he would like run with me and make sure I was at a certain pace, make sure I wasn't going too fast, and being like that tortoise in a way, learning to when to go fast at a certain time, when to go slow the whole time, and just be there. And so yeah, he was my my support runner. It was really cool, because when running a marathon first comes to mind, you wouldn't really think you would need a support runner for that distance, but you do. It helps a lot. So yeah, he was really helpful.
Awesome. As we move into the final few assignments, and in particular, as in this next segment, as we talk about the motivation and the mindset and representation of having special Olympics athletes, having people with intellectual disabilities like yourself and myself represented in a very big marathon like the Chicago Marathon is. Share with us your message to other Special Olympics athletes, not just here in Illinois, not just here in Chicago, but across the globe, or even people thinking about long distance running. What's because even a guest that we had on the podcast a couple weeks ago, who also ran the Chicago Marathon, the youngest person was Down syndrome to run the marathon. His name's Caleb. I was even thinking of possibly getting started in running myself. Don't know if I'm actually going to get there, but so kind of with that in mind, what's a message that you'd like to give to other athletes who dream of taking on big goals like a marathon?
So first off, in order to get into long distance running, I would train like every day. And while you're training and running every day, if you're able to, I don't want to make any recommendations for you, but I would run like every day, drink a lot of water, and then just have fun with it. Like, don't run the marathon at first, right? I would try running like 3 or 4 miles at first. If you're comfortable at that distance, go farther, and then so on and so forth. And then, like I said, drink plenty of water. You're gonna need a lot of water when you're like pushing your body to go that far. Regardless if it's not a marathon or not, you still need to drink water, because water is the best way to not just fuel you for runs, but to be healthy as well. So I think that's the best advice that I would give.
Awesome. And building upon that, talk about how running the marathon connects to leadership and inclusion. As you know, the inclusion, I don't know if our listeners, or I should say if our viewers, because of course our audio listeners can't see us, but for our YouTube audience, viewers can see on the side of my polo, it says, "The revolution is inclusion, hashtag choose to include." So as you know, the inclusion revolution is a big part of this, of the Special Olympics movement. Talk about how running the marathon connects to leadership and inclusion.
So your disability has no limits, and then remember that inclusion has no limits to what you can do, and also to what other people around you can do. It's okay to try something new and not be successful at it first. But finishing a marathon and running a marathon and training for a marathon and crossing that line feels like a goal. It feels like a gold medal. It feels like you want to have a medal on your chest, even if it's not gold. And it feels like a win for sure. It's important to have that inclusion, because there's other people that will be inspired by that, and you never know who that will be. So just be yourself and have fun, and you never know who will follow in your journey.
Awesome. And building upon that, what does representation in major athletic events like the Chicago Marathon, what does this representation mean to you?
It's really important to me. I like being a voice for other people that maybe don't get a chance to, or don't really know how to. So I get to teach them how to. I get to be an inspiration for them, because it's not easy. It's a little scary. So you just gotta practice that. And then I'm trying to read what I wrote down here. Yeah, people want their voices heard, and people need that chance to do it. So I guess running marathons is like a silent way of showing people that disability is not really a disability, that there's no limits to a disability, because disability and limits are not the same at all. So yeah, it's really important.
Absolutely. We mentioned the athlete leadership program at the beginning. How do you see your role as an athlete leader on Waste Day and beyond as well? How do you see like this accomplishment of now being a Chicago Marathon winner, complete Chicago winner? How do you see your role as an athlete leader, both from Waste Day, from a couple of weeks ago to now beyond Waste Day? How do you see your role as an athlete leader fitting into this Chicago Marathon journey?
I see it as like in the future, just running more and more marathons, because I'm pretty hooked on it, and then eventually getting up to competing at the world stage. That'd be pretty cool. And then going even further and running like marathons in other states. Like there's the Boston Marathon that I want to run, and there's also a marathon called the Ultra Marathon, which is over 26.2 miles. That was told to try. So I want to try that eventually. But
awesome. I know there was leading up to the Special Olympics World Games in Berlin. There was another big event that took place, the Berlin Marathon, as well. In Germany. So maybe even in addition to the Boston Marathon and to these other marathons here in the States, maybe there might be some other marathons in other countries and other cities across the globe that you might want to think about as well. What did it mean to represent Special Olympics at the Chicago Marathon? I think you said that you were running with special children's charities, but what did it? But even if you didn't have Special Olympics on your running shirt, I'm sure you were still representing Special Olympics. So what did it mean to represent Special Olympics at the Chicago Marathon?
It's really, really special, to be honest. You get the chance to show people who you are, and get to show people that that you're a human being. That disability doesn't really exist. That people with disabilities are just like you. They're good at things too, and they need a chance to show that. They need a chance to show you. And then just to challenge yourself. It's like life. It's not always easy, but it's always good to go out there and try, because you never know what you're gonna be good at. And yeah, it feels good to be able to represent Special Olympics at the marathon. Just because it shows people that people with disabilities can do more than what you think. And we're not proving that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was, in addition to you, I think that there was a few Special Olympics athletes who ran the Chicago Marathon. I think we had possibly one other from Illinois. I think there was one from Massachusetts. There was one from Caleb was from Florida. He was running for the National Down Syndrome Society, but he he's still an athlete from Florida. So, yeah. Moving into your future goals and advice, because I think we're a little bit over an hour, so we got just a few more wrap up segments, few last minute wrap up segments here. What's next for? I keep almost. There's no more water in here, but I keep almost dropping over this 40-ounce. Those listening to just audio, you can go watch the video and see how I almost spilled this. So if you guys don't hear this podcast, it's because there might have been some water spilled on the equipment. What next, Matthew, for you after completing the Chicago Marathon? What's next for you now that you've completed the marathon? Is it winning the Boston Marathon or the Berlin Marathon or any other or what's next for you after competing? Is there any other races and athletic events on the horizon?
Yeah, there's several. I want to do the Chicago Marathon next year too, so I can improve my race time and then eventually get up to the ultra marathon. But I had to train harder for that, and also for the Boston Marathon too. I've heard it's pretty competitive to get up to those races. You have to qualify within a certain time frame, not time frame, but to have a certain time to qualify. So I'm trying to get there, and it was recommended that I should try a ultra marathon, which is more than 26.2 miles, and I want to try that. I just gotta mentally and physically train there to get to there, be able to race that. And then, I want to be able to, I want to be able to run more marathons just in general. I'm hooked. I like it that much. It feels good. I'm always a person that's seeking stuff like that because it feels good on my body, and I like it. I like it that much. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, and you mentioned some tips in the last segment for other athletes who might want to run the post marathon. Share with us some advice to others who want to take on the post marathon. Because was this your first marathon that you ran?
It was my second marathon. My first marathon was last year, so this is my second time.
And you ran the Chicago Marathon last year as well, right? All right. So, share with us some advice for others who wanna. Now that you've run 2 marathons, share with us advice for others who want to take on their first marathon.
So if you want to take on your first marathon, I would follow a training plan, because there's a lot of help that you can get out there. And then also get the right shoes. You're going to need a lot of support when it comes to running, because running shoes vary from person to person. One size may not fit all, in sort of fancy way to speak. So definitely get the right shoes. Fleet Feet is what I highly recommend. They're amazing. They get you fitted the right way. It's pretty good. And then leading up to training wise for the race, run as much as you can. Follow a training plan, which is very important because it breaks down how many miles you run per week, 3 or 4 or up to 8 or even 13 at one point. But that's you have to start off easy and then go up from there, and then drink a lot of water, and then just in general just have fun. Running a marathon is a pretty big achievement. And it's not as competitive as it needs to be. And being in Special Olympics is really, really special to me. It changed my life, and running a marathon will definitely do that. So it's not as competitive as it needs to be, but it's still a race. But it'll feel like it won once you finish, and you will never forget it.
Awesome. A lot of the same advice that you just shared. If our listeners go back to a couple episodes ago with Caleb's crew, so Caleb and his mom were on the program a couple weeks ago, leading up to the Chicago Marathon, and they shared a lot of the same advice. So it's nice that a lot of long distance runners, whether it's yourself, whether it's Caleb, whether it's his mom, a lot of long distance runners who have ran the Chicago Marathon share the similar advice. Are there any other races or goals that you're setting for yourself in as we, because now this episode is going to air beginning of November. We're recording this the end of October. So as we look into 2026, I know 2026 is 2 to 3 months away. And so as we look into 2026, is there any other races or goals that you're setting for yourself now?
I'm setting a goal to not just run the Chicago Marathon next year, but also run the Boston Marathon. I want to be able to qualify for that race, just because I know what to do better and what to improve on to improve my race time, mentally and physically. And then just challenge myself way more than what I've been doing already. And then, I think that's really about it.
And building upon that advice that you just shared, share with us what advice that you'd give for someone training for the first marathon. Maybe there's a listener right now who wants to train for the Chicago Marathon in 2026. Share with us advice that you'd give for someone who's training for the very first marathon.
So the advice that I would give, like try to look up a training plan that works for you, and then follow that throughout the 16 weeks, and then drink a lot of water throughout your plan, and then have fun, and then get the right shoes too. That's also important, and then just try to stretch as much as you can, because it takes a lot out of your body, and it will help you lose weight to help you stay fit when you're get consistent. So try to be as consistent as you can, especially if it's your first one, because like I said, running takes a big toll on your body. So the more consistent you are, the more you'll be able to run longer distances later on. And then that's really about it.
Awesome. Where can our listeners follow your journey, as well as learn more about how to get involved with their local Special Olympics program?
I would go to your local park. Like if you're trying to look up a Special Olympics program at your local park, and then ask if you can join the team, get involved with that team in your area, and then you'll be able to compete in the marathon once you're on a team. Because when you're an athlete, you don't have to donate money, because that's a whole nother thing. But I think you're just like, because you're already an athlete, so you'll be able to run it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you're now watching the video podcast, the link will be in the description below wherever you're listening. But right below on the screen, you can find your local Special Olympics program at specialolympics.org. So if you're listening in Illinois, if you're listening in Massachusetts, because that's where Boston is, if you're listening in DC, Maryland, Virginia, California, Indiana, Texas, in Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Africa, specialolympics.org, you can find where your local Special Olympics program is. Matthew, how can the listeners get involved in Special Olympics events? Is it just getting connected at specialolympics.org and finding their local program?
That, and then go to a program, not program, but go to a competition in your area. If there's a competition in your area, come and watch and see how it goes, and if it's of interest to you, then join us.
Yeah, and Yeah, and if there's an athlete, I know that there's an athlete that was at the USA Games in Orlando who became an athlete after she attended those games. So that's an example of if there's an athlete with an intellectual disability, come out to a games and competition like Matthew said, and then you can then get involved, but also volunteers and coaches, and there's other ways to get involved as well. Or sponsors, and yeah. Any final thoughts before we get to the final question? I know the past hour and 15 minutes has flown by, but any final thoughts in your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles podcast that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I mean, the only thing that I have to say when it comes to running marathons is have fun and enjoy it, because it will help you stay in shape. Not just help you stay in shape, but it would help you in other things in life. Just be happy and just, like I said, enjoy it, because you will never forget it.
Awesome. We got one final question, and to introduce the final question, we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
equality,
Dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity. We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
More divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So, as you know, the inclusion revolution is a big part of this movement. And ever since I got back from the 2019 Special Olympics Games in Abu Dhabi, I've been asking our guests this final question, because we don't just want our listeners to hear your story, hear your journey, but we want our listeners to take action and to bring inclusion into their communities, towns, workplaces, schools, and cities across the globe. And this final question is that call to action to help our listeners do that. So what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion is very important to me. You know, it stands out. It'll help you stand out as a person, because people will look up to you. Some people will need that in their life. They don't. Some people just don't have that person to, you know, be an inspiration of, not just being inspiration of, but to look up towards, because some people aren't able to do some of the stuff that I have done, not because of their ability, but because maybe they can't afford it, or maybe that's not in their horizons. So, you know, just be the voice for other people and try to inspire them as much as they can, as much as you can, and just accept the way people are, and just have fun doing it. That's really about it.
Awesome. And for those of you listening, if you now scan this QR code that you see on the screen that's above Matthew, there, yes, white where you pointed, you can scan that to donate to Special Chronicles. So we can, because it's free for you to listen and watch, but it does cost money for the microphones, for the technology, to keep the lights on in the studio here, and for us to even bring you these podcasts. So if you scan that QR code, you can donate now, specialchronicles.com/donate. And with that, that's what, about an hour and 19 minutes here. So that's about time to wrap up here. So thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. A huge thank you to our guest, Matthew Gorski, for sharing his powerful story about training for and running the Chicago Marathon, and for continuing to inspire all of us through his leadership and determination as a Special Olympics athlete leader. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share this episode with your friends and community. To learn more about Special Chronicles and how you can get involved, visit specialchronicles.com, where you can find more podcasts, articles, and stories that give respect and voice to people with special needs. Until next time, I'm Daniel Smrokowski, and remember, choose to include, and we'll see you on the next episode of Special Chronicles. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.